Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Loving obeisances unto the Supreme Being Vasudeva, who is everything there is. Janmadyasya yato anvayaditaratascha artheshu abhignaswarat tene brahmahridaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsurayah tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha dhamna swena sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dhimahi. We meditate upon the transcendent absolute being from whom springs forth this universe. He is present in all that exists and yet distinct from everything. He is fully conscious and totally independent. He revealed to the first seer Brahma the import of Vedic wisdom. The material creation made of threefold gunas appears in him as though real, like water in a mirage. Being eternally self-effulgent, he is ever free of the illusion maya of the material world. We meditate upon him, the Supreme Being. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam shukamukad amrita drava sanyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. O devotees who relish a taste for divine love, Bhagavatam is the fully ripened fruit of the wish-yielding tree of Vedas, flowing as immortal nectar from Shuka Brahmarishi. Go on drinking the sweet nectar day after day. So now we enter the 21st chapter of the 4th Skandha of Bhagavatam. After having finished the sacrifices on the banks of Saraswati and being blessed by the Supreme Lord, as we saw, King Prthu now returns back to the capital, and as he returns, Maitreya continues the narration. He says the city was decorated everywhere beautifully with strings of pearls, flowers, arches of gold. There was fragrant incense everywhere. The streets and the quadrangles and all the highways were sprinkled with perfumed water, smelling of sandalwood and flowers, and decorated with fruits and all the various other decorations such as mango leaves and so on. The people were all well dressed, and all the ladies came out greeting with lights, and they all welcomed the king and the entire caravan of his retinue who came back from this wonderful sacrifice. There were conches blowing, kettle drums being blown, and music made to be ringing everywhere in the streets and greeted everywhere. The king entered, and then Maitreya shortly concludes by saying the great king then came back to the capital, ruled very excellently, and then ascended to the eternal abode of the Lord. Now, hearing this, Vidura is not satisfied. Vidura, who is the avid listener that he ever is, he always draws out more and more the nectar of the stories of the Lord and the devotees, and knowing that King Prthu is a great Bhagavata himself and an Amsha, a manifestation of the Supreme Lord, Vidura asks Maitreya, he says, we have heard of this wonderful sacrifice he has done. We also know that he made earth prosperous. We know that everything that every king now enjoys is because of what Prthu established as Prithvi. So please tell us more. What did he do after returning to the capital and in his long reign as a king? So now Maitreya then, pleased by the question again, continues and says, he was established in the capital, which was in the holy stretch of land between the two sacred rivers Ganga and Yamuna. So the land between Ganga and Yamuna is the land that is there starting from the Himalayas all the way to Prayagraj where Ganga and Yamuna meet. So this is a very sacred stretch of land, the plains that are between Ganga and Yamuna, where apparently his capital was based. And this is also the land where Hastinapura was, the land where Arjuna was, and so on later. So that's the same place where Prthu ruled from. And it is said that his commands were respected everywhere, all across the world, though. His capital was based there in the plains between Ganga and Yamuna, but his command was honored in all the 7 islands, it is said, that is the 7 continents, and everyone obeyed him with the exception of those who he obeyed. And they are, it is said, the sages and those who directly owe their progeny to Sri Hari. That is, those who consider themselves as descendants of Sri Hari, or to say that those who did not have any family attachment but who considered belonging to the family of Sri Hari. It says, Anyatra Brahmana Kulat Anyatra Achyuta Gotratah. So the two exceptions to the whole universe, that is, it is said the whole world with the seven continents listened to him, with the two exceptions whose commands he listened to, and they are, one is Brahmana Kula, that is the true Brahmanas who were abiding in the Brahman in pure truth of being, and in Achyuta Gotrataha, that is those who considered themselves belonging to the Gotra of Krishna or Achyuta, that is those who didn't have any family attachment but considered themselves the lineage directly of Sri Hari. So then Maitreya continues and says that once there was a grand sacrifice he performed in the capital where all the great sagely beings and seers all arranged or all assembled, and there he gave beautiful instructions, and that is what is the subject of this chapter. He is first described in very beautiful, vivid detail how he looks, Prthu. It is said that he is very tall, he is very muscular with long arms, he is a Kshatriya, he is a ruler, so his features are very prominent and very strong. So, very tall, very muscular, long arms, a fair and light complexion, eyes like lotus, a very shapely nose, a beautiful face, very gentle appearance, broad shoulders, beautiful teeth with a very pleasant smile. And again, many of these beautiful features are exactly how Sri Ram is described to. Sri Ram, who later appears as the great king and who rules the same from the same area, Ayodhya, which is also in the same plains of Ganga, and therefore Prthu is also described in similar terms, even his physical features. He has got very beautiful features. His so strong, as we said, his arms are so strong, and his thighs are like pillars made of gold. And it is very nicely saying here that his belly was like a leaf of a fig tree. So the original definition of what is called a six pack is Prthu, because a leaf of a fig tree is flat with lines, and similarly his belly was so flat with lines, which is what is known as the six pack abs these days. So this is what Prthu had even before any such conception was there. He was so perfectly featured from head to toe, as it is said here, and he also had a beautiful golden silk cloth around his waist and also around his chest. That is, he wore it across his chest, flowing down from his left shoulder down to the right side of his body. And he was looking radiant, resplendent, and he looked at everyone there with loving eyes, and he addressed the whole assembly there, consisting of both sages, priests, as well as the regular subjects, the people of his kingdom. And that address he makes is what Maitreya relates here, and it's a very beautiful address. First, he talks about what is the duty of a king and of the subjects. He says, we have to first know the meaning of dharma by submitting to those who are wise and understanding dharma or the right spirit of righteousness from them. So, as a ruler on earth, I have been assigned the role of keeping dharma, and therefore I punish evildoers and I protect people, and I most importantly keep them within the bounds of dharma, because the ruler, that is the job of a ruler, is not only to protect the people from any evil, but also keep them within the bounds of dharma. If they are simply pursuing pleasure without any concern to righteousness, then that pursuit of happiness which is devoid of dharma results in anarchy and ruin. So, pursuit of happiness that is in consonance with dharma is the essence of the way of living that has to be maintained by a ruler. So, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, it is said, and here it is added beautifully that it's not just life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, but pursuit of happiness in consonance with righteousness or dharma. That is what Prthu says is the job of a king to maintain, or a government to maintain, and it is the duty of the people to also live in this way. So, this is a very wise and beautiful declaration of the duty of a king or a government and the duty of people, where there is peace, freedom, and also righteousness. When righteousness is removed, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, as beautiful as they are, can also result in indulgence and addictions and all kinds of negative consequences as we see today. But when pursuit of happiness is coupled with dharma, then it leads to a very harmonious society. And that's what Prthu has talked about way back then. And he has also said, therefore, a king has to levy taxes, but use the taxes in order to protect the people and to engage them in dharma. So, the centrality of dharma is what is emphasized here, not just in this episode, but all through Bhagavatam, because dharma leads to realizing the truth of our being. If we are not on the path of dharma, righteousness, then we cannot realize our own truth, and thereby we cannot realize peace and true happiness. So, having taught the duty of the king and the subjects, he now says that also the most important and highest dharma is to fix your mind on the supreme being who is above sense perception. So he addresses his subjects now and says, please do your duty without any expectation of results, as he was himself taught by the Supreme Lord. He tells his subjects, do your duty without any regard for the results and fix your mind exclusively on the Supreme Being who is beyond sense perception, and listen to this prayer of mine and live accordingly, and thereby you can all live in harmony, peace, and shine brilliantly. Then he says, this is the opinion of all my forefathers. He starts from Manu, who is the first being, Swayambhuva Manu, his son Uttanapada, we saw this, and then his son Dhruva, who are all his forefathers, his lineage, the royal sage Priyavrata, who is the brother of Uttanapada. Then he goes all the way to his grandfather Anga, and then he also says Brahma and Shiva themselves, and great beings such as Prahalada. Everyone are agreeing on one point, that one has to completely be dependent on the Supreme Being alone. The true means of securing all the objects of human pursuit, that is dharma, artha, kama, moksha, that is righteousness, wealth, pleasure, and true freedom, is all by surrendering to the Supreme Being Sri Hari. And this is the informed opinion of all my forefathers. But he also mentions, with the exception of my own father Vena, because as we saw, his father Vena was wicked and he was not given to righteous living, and therefore he was eliminated by the sages. So my father Vena and a few others were deluded, and they deserve to be pitied and they deserve to be shown compassion. We ought not to hold any grievance, but to have compassion for those who are deluded out of ignorance. But everyone else in our lineage have always reminded us of the importance of surrender to Sri Hari as the highest dharma. Because he says, just as the water of Ganga flows from the feet of Sri Hari and purifies the whole land, similarly, he says, the very remembrance of Sri Hari purifies the mind, and it wipes out all the impurities that are acquired through various trials and tribulations, various sufferings of not just this lifetime but all previous lifetimes. Therefore, he says, the man who takes shelter in the lotus feet of Sri Hari is rid of all impurities, and he acquires the power for dispassion and wisdom. So that is the most important benediction. So he says, Puman Asanga Vijnana Vishesha Viryavan. Asanga is detachment, Vijnana is realization. So to attain the power, Viryavan is to become the one with the power for dispassion and self-realization. To attain the status of being the one who has dispassion and self-realization is possible for a man who surrenders to the lotus feet of Sri Hari. And therefore he says, please worship him alone, whose lotus feet can provide whatever you desire with all your faculties, with your mind, speech and body, kaya, vacha, mana, it is said. So with body, speech and mind, engage yourself only in worshipping him with all your duties, so that whatever you do for living is all in consonance with this principle of doing work with total detachment, leaving the results to the Supreme Being. Then he describes the Supreme Being beautifully. He says, he is a mass of pure consciousness. So that's a very beautiful expression. He says, Vishuddha Vijnana Ghanaha. That is, Vishuddha means pure, Vijnana is pure consciousness, Ghana means a complete mass. So all he is a compact mass of pure consciousness who is manifesting himself every time in any ritual, in any sacrifice, through all qualities, through all actions, through all substances, dravya, guna, kriya, uktibihi. He says through all qualities, all actions, all purposes, through everything he alone manifests, just as fire manifests through wood in so many different forms. Similarly, he manifests through people in so many different forms. And therefore, he says, O my subjects, please listen to me now. So, having given the instruction of how to live life, and having told that the sole purpose of living is to surrender unto Sri Hari and to do one's duties without any attachment, he also gives one very important instruction, which is to always revere and glorify the sages who are ever surrendered unto him and who are ever abiding in the wisdom of the Supreme. So he says, O my subjects, with a firm resolve, always incessantly worship those who are completely surrendered unto Sri Hari. Because he says, may the ruling class, the Kshatriya, so he's addressing all the ruling class members there. He says, may your power and your affluence and your strength, may that never overpower those who are totally surrendered unto the Supreme Being through austerity, forbearance, and adoration. He says, Titikshaya tapasa vidyaya cha. Titiksha means forbearance, tapas means austerity, and vidya is wisdom or learning. So he says, those who are completely surrendered unto him, those who shine through their abidance in the Supreme, through forbearance, austerity, and wisdom, they are the true sages, true Brahmanas, and they ought to be never shown power over, they ought to be never outshined. We have to always bow our heads to them and be reverent towards them, because it is only by adoring the feet of the Brahmanas, the great sagely Brahmanas who are ever surrendered unto him, that we can attain any prosperity, because he says Sri Hari himself always reveres the feet of the Brahmana. So, as we have always seen, one of the names of Krishna is Bhakta Vatsala, that is, he who puts his devotees above himself, and his devotees, those who are true Brahmanas, or those who are completely surrendered unto him, the great sagely beings, the ones who are abiding in Brahman and hence called Brahmanas. So he says, the description of Hari here is Brahmanya Devaha Purushaha Puratano Nityam Hari Yat Charanabi Vandanat. He says Hari, the Supreme Being, he is always glorifying the feet of those great Brahmanas, those great sagely beings. He being the original person, Supreme Being, he shows the way by always glorifying his pure devotees. So we ought to also always glorify his pure devotees. And only by following this righteous conduct of the Lord and by adoring in all humility with one's entire being, the supreme Brahmanas, the pure devotees of the Lord, can we feel the presence of the Lord in our own heart, and thereby we can please him. Because he says, who is qualified to talk about the Supreme Being here than those sagely Brahmanas, those wise beings, Vipras, who are ever surrendered unto him. Therefore, we have to listen to them with reverence, because only by listening to them who are alone qualified to talk about him can we get this wisdom and thereby purify ourselves. And then he goes on to add that the immortal Supreme Lord, who is the sole theme of all the Upanishads, he, more than enjoying any oblations offered into the sacrificial fire, he enjoys the reverence offered to Brahmanas. So, the knowers of truth, that is the real definition of Brahmanas, by the way. It is not a title that one can get simply by birth, but one through one's actions and qualities, as Krishna has always emphasized in the Gita too. So, one who by his actions and qualities abides as the knower of truth, abides in Brahman, and therefore fit to be called a Brahmana. So here Prthu says, to such Brahmanas, whatever is offered pleases the Lord more than whatever we offer in sacrificial fires. And therefore, he says, with reverence, austerity, great conduct, minimal speech, self-control, and concentrated mind, the Brahmanas always hold the Vedas in their heart and always inquire into the truth. So this is the quality. Here he defines who that Brahmana is. It's again very beautiful to see this definition given so that people do not claim something by virtue of birth or by pedigree, but here it says, Yad Brahma Nityam Virajam Sanatanam Shraddha Tapo Mangala Mauna Sanyamaihi Samadhina Bibrati Hi Artha Drishtaye Yatra Idam Adarsha Iva Avabhasate. Such a beautiful verse. Every word, he says, one who is ever abiding in Brahman with austerity, with sincerity, Shraddha, Tapa, Mangala, Mauna, Sanyamaihi, with Shraddha, sincerity, Tapas, austerity, Mangala, auspicious conduct, Mauna, with very regulated speech or silence, Sanyamaihi, with self-control, with Samadhi, with abidance in Samadhi, with all these qualities, one who ever retains the Vedas and inquires into the essence of the Vedas, such Brahmanas are the ones we need to always revere. And therefore he says, I carry the lotus feet and the dust of the lotus feet of such Brahmanas on my crown, because it immediately removes all the impurities and it makes disappear the sins, whatever one has acquired, and brings all kinds of virtues. And therefore he says, riches of all kind come to him very automatically, who is able to live in reverence to Brahmanas and also who lives as an abode of excellences, rich in moral character, full of gratitude and devoted to elders. So he says, Gunayanam, Shiladhanam, Kritagnyam, Vruddhashrayam, Samvrinate Anusampadaha. So these are the riches one needs to acquire. Gunayanam, that is being a abode of all good qualities. Sheeladhanam, rich in moral character. Kritagnyam, having gratitude. Vriddhashrayam, that is being devoted to elders. When one has all these wealths, these riches, then one can be freed of all impurities automatically, and these riches come by revering those brahmanas, those sagely beings who are well versed in the nature of truth, who inquire into it, and who share it freely out of compassion. So these are the qualities of Brahmana. So here, very beautifully, Prthu describes both the qualities of the great Brahmanas, that is the true sagely beings who abide in Brahman and who inquire into truth and who share the essence of truth freely without any expectation, out of unconditional love and compassion. Such are the Brahmanas. And the duty of all the subjects and the rulers in particular is to revere them and to give them a special place in society and take care of their needs so that the whole society can prosper in wealth and in good qualities and righteousness. So this is the holistic way of living that is being encouraged in Vedic society, and Prthu is an embodiment of this. So he says, finally, as a benediction, may such Brahmanas and the cows, which are very essential for holistic living, and the Supreme Lord Janardana and his devotees be gracious unto all of us. He says, Prasidatam Brahmakulam Gavamcha Janardanaha Sa Anucharascha Mahyam. He says, may all of them be gracious. And this is the greatest benediction. So hearing this beautiful benediction, prayers and instructions of the King Prthu, all the assembled sages and all the various pious souls and all the subjects there, everybody applauded, and they all said uniformly that it is so true that the Vedas say that one who has a worthy son attains the highest abode. So there is a saying in the Vedas, it is said here, Putrena Jayate Lokan iti Satyavati Shrutihi. He says, Shruti, the Vedas declare that one who has the worthiest of sons, he is able to attain the highest abode simply by the virtue of having a worthy son. So here, why it is said is because Vena, his father, was of course wicked, evil, and he was completely given to unrighteous ways. But somehow from him came forth Prthu, who is the noblest of all kings. And so because of Prthu, Vena, the sinful Vena, is saved. And so that's what they are noticing, that it is so true. Now we can see that such a worthy son has been born, and by him Prthu is saved, just as the demon Hiranyakashipu is saved by his son Prahalada. So this story is of course one of the most wonderful stories of Bhagavatam, which comes much later, and we'll see how the demon Hiranyakashipu was saved by his son Prahalada, the greatest devotee of the Lord, through the wonderful incarnation of Sri Narasimha. But now that example is given to show how Vena, the father, was saved by Prthu, and therefore they all offer a blessing to him and say, O great hero, O ruler of earth, may you live happily and serve the kingdom. Having you for the ruler, we find that we are under the protection of Krishna himself and of Mukunda. They say, Aho Vayam hi adya pavitra kirte natena mukundanataha. They say, by your presence, we feel that we are under the rulership of Mukunda himself, the Supreme Lord. And therefore they say, Uttama shloka tamasya Vishnu Brahmanya devasya katham vyanakti. They say, therefore, you reveal to us the glory of the Supreme Lord, and because of you, we feel the protection of the Supreme Lord himself in this kingdom. So it is no great wonder that you gave such perfect instructions to all your subjects, and because of you, everybody has been instructed in the right way. They are all therefore saved from the misery of transmigration, of going after desires and getting caught in desires and running after various things, but living according to dharma and realizing the eternal truth and reaching the eternal abode of the Lord. This is the greatest benediction, and you have given this to all your subjects by your instructions. And therefore, hail to you, the most adorable person that you are. dominated by the quality of sattva, who reveres and adores the brahmanas, who protects the kshatriyas, and who maintains the whole universe perfectly. Hail to you, O king. So with this prayer, all the sages there glorify the king for giving such wonderful instructions and living according to them and ruling the kingdom in great righteousness and honor. And with this, we end this chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.